almost everything I needed to know about survival I learned in the military. Here are 5 military skills that every prepper needs to know. Check this out. Hey everyone, it's Jeff Anderson from Modern Combat Survival Magazine. If this is your first time joining us and you want more tips on how to survive any disaster, make sure that you go ahead and subscribe and click on the bell to make sure that you don't miss a thing. Now, I've often said that when you're looking at surviving any sort of a disaster, crisis, or attack, that it's very similar to a military mission. When you think about it, in the military, you might be in a defend-in-place scenario where you've got to be there, you set up your obstacles, you set up your defenses because the enemy is out there. If you're moving from one location to another location and you've got enemy out there, you've got to be able to do it as tactically as possible, right? Well, in a survival scenario, it's very similar a lot of the times. You might find yourself in a shelter-in-place scenario. You can still have looters and desperate, unprepared citizens are out there that want your stuff or are going to beg for your stuff or demand your stuff or take your stuff. And you need to be prepared for those sort of things. Same thing if it's a bug out scenario and you need to get from your location to safety. Again, you've got to do it as tactically as possible to make sure that you safeguard your family, yourself, as well as all of your gear, right? Well, there are military skills that we learn right from basic training that are very valuable for survival skills. In fact, day 1 of basic training, this is the book that you get. It looks probably a little bit different than when I was in the infantry, but this is the Soldier's Manual for Common Task Training, our CTT manual. You get this because this is all the foundational skills that you need to know for the battlefield. And you don't graduate from basic training until you pass your CTT exams. Okay, so these skills are very valuable, but there's a lot of crossover as well. In fact, here are 5 military skills from the CTT manual that every prepper needs to know. Now, skill number 1 is combat first aid. Now, you need to understand that, especially if it's a natural disaster, that chances are that there could be an injury, right? If it's a hurricane, an earthquake, a tornado, fires, whatever it is, you or a family member could be injured in that process because of the disaster. But first responders are going to be very rare. They're going to be spread out all over the place, and the disaster might keep them from getting to you in the first place. Likewise, hospitals might be overrun with injured, and you're not going to get the care that you necessarily need right away. So that means that you might have to be your family's trauma expert. You might have to be the doctor. You might have to be the first responder. In order to do that, there are some key skills that you need to know so that you're not standing there watching your family wither and die in front of you from an injury that you might have been able to handle. Now, part of that is gear. You should always have some sort of survival kit as part of your survival gear, and it should be something more than just Band-Aids, but you also need the skills to back it up. Those are one of the things that we learned right from the very beginning in basic training, all right? So combat first aid, or disaster first aid, if you will, trauma first aid. Now, skill number 2 is how to read a map. Okay, this is a big thing when you go through the military, to be able to land navigate from one location to another if you don't have a GPS. You've always got to be able to fall back on a map. Now, I'm not saying that you need to be a land navigation expert in order to be a prepper or to be prepared for survival. However, having a topographical map of your area, and if you have, which you should, a planned safety retreat that is 75 to 150 miles away, and having topographical maps for that area and all the way up to that point, that's going to be very, very valuable for you, all right? You need to be able to identify locations on the map, different topographical features on the map, and the reason why this is really helpful for you, even if you have a GPS, even if you have your cell phone and the cell phone towers aren't down, is that it will help you to determine alternative routes. If you need to get from one location to another and the highways are a virtual parking lot, yes, a road atlas can show you roads, but a topographical map is going to show you, it's going to show you railroad lines, it's going to show you power lines, it's going to show you alternative ways, other maybe hiking paths and things like that, that you might have to take to bypass certain obstacles, groups of people, urban areas, whatever it is that you're going to need to avoid, right? Topographical map will help you do that. Also, it'll help you identify urban areas on your way or in your area. That might be areas that you want to avoid, or if you need to resupply, places that you can get to. The other thing it'll do is it'll show you more of the water features that are in your area. So being able to manufacture drinkable water is going to be a real skill, and this will help you determine what streams, creeks, rivers, reservoirs, and things like that might be in your area that you can access. All right, so reading a map. Skill number 3 is how to shoot and maintain a firearm. Now, in the military, of course, we have our primary issued firearm. We take that with us, you know, on all of our training. We go out to the field with it. We go into combat with it. And that is our lifeline. That is what keeps us alive. Well, likewise, in a disaster, you might have times where you have to defend yourself against looters, maybe trying to take stuff from your home, or just from desperate citizens who decide, you know what, you have stuff, you better give it to us or we're going to take it. You have to protect yourself and your family. Again, first responders are not necessarily going to be right there on the end of a 911 call. So having a firearm, I'm not going to go into what types of firearms are specific to survival, it's a whole other video, but being able to shoot a firearm is a very valuable skill. Why? We go in the military, they don't just give us slingshots, right? So whether you own a gun or not, being able to know how to use one is going to be very beneficial. Even if you can get one after, for some reason, after a disaster or after a collapse or something like that, you get one, you still need to be able to use it, right? So even if you don't own one, know how to use it. But also maintain it. Every time we come back from a mission or back from the field, very first thing that we do is we clean our weapon spotless. Absolutely spotless. Because if this thing jams, if it goes down on us, again, that's our lifeline. So you've got to maintain the equipment that you have, all right? Skill number 4 is camouflage. Camouflage. Now this is a big part of military survival, right? You want to blend into your battlefield so that the enemy doesn't detect you. So when I'm talking about camouflage for the prepper, I'm not necessarily talking about camoing up your face, putting on your BDUs, grabbing your AR-15 and walking down Main Street. Unfortunately, that's what a lot of doomsday preppers think about survival. Completely the wrong way. It's the concept of camouflage that you need to understand, which is essentially blending in. In the military, that might be painting your face with different colors, putting on the right BDUs that make you blend in with the surroundings. In a disaster scenario where you don't want people to look at you and say, wow, that looks like a prepper. I bet he has water and food and stuff that I need. Let me go talk to that person. Your goal is to be the gray man. That's what we call it, going gray. So basically you want to blend in so that nobody can look at you and automatically, just even with a scan, detect, hey, wait, this guy looks different, or this woman looks different, and you know they look like they might have supplies. You want to look like everybody else, that you don't have supplies, all right? So you need to be able to camouflage yourself by going gray. And skill number 5, and this one's kind of a weird one for you, but it's react to indirect fire. So that is an actual common task training that we get in the military. And essentially it's if you hear a round coming overhead, or mortar shells coming in, howitzer round is coming in, some sort of bomb is coming in, improvised explosive devices, things are warnings like that. It's those types of things that we're taught to be able to identify so we don't die. But it's more than that, so we can take fast action. And I can tell you that this is the #1 killer when it comes to a natural disaster, is being able to take fast, decisive action. Most people freeze. They don't really know what to do. Should we stay? Should we go? Should we evacuate north? Should we go to Aunt Bessie's? What should we do? They freeze, and it's like, well, let's not do anything. Let's wait it out. Let's do it. By the time they get on the road, parking lots are out there. It's a big mess, and it's too late, right? Well, what we're taught in the military is that when you recognize these signs, so #1 is to know what the signs are, all right? #2 is take fast, decisive action. If you hear a round coming in, if you hear that like that, what do? You hit the deck. You hit the ground as fast as you possibly can. So while you're not going to be a natural disaster and all of a sudden hear and all of a sudden boom, you do need to be able to look for the warning signs that things might be heating up in your area and your location might not be safe anymore. Whether that's your home or wherever you're at, it might be time to take fast, decisive action on something else, all right? So those are 5 military survival skills that you need to know for prepping. Now, if you want to know more military survival secrets, there you'll find a link here in the video, along with the description of the video, that'll take you over to some more training. And until our next Modern Combat and Survival broadcast, this is Jeff Anderson saying prepare, train, and survive.